Great stuff. Well, all yours. What would you like to talk about this evening? Can be theoretical or practical, or obviously it'll be about the Buddha's teaching. Oh yes, I should remind you, there's a react button at the bottom of the screen. If you click on that, there's a hand raise. Hey, Mandy.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, nice to see you.
Good to see you too. It's been a long time.
Well, it's been a month, hasn't it? Yeah, I forgot to mention last time that we had the WESAC event here on the preceding Monday. So nice to be back.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I have a more practical question. I was observing during the meditation just now that my mind was so busy. My awareness was everywhere. So I heard the sounds of the birds singing, my neighbors crowing something in the wall, my dog barking, and
Excellent.
went so quickly from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other. And then I noticed my thoughts about it, and I noticed what you were saying in the instruction, and all went on going and going. And I was wondering, what is then the best thing to do? Do I linger a little bit with one thing? Do I make a choice now? Or is this what it is? And I make my observation that it's going fast. So I was a bit struggling what to do.
Okay. So what would you call that?
I call that a busy mind.
Okay. Would you call it anything else? And there's a question there, isn't there? Meaning in that deliberation, there is a question mark at the end.
Yeah.
What should I do? So
because
what is?
yes, no, that's true. There was also this observation that I wanted things to be different. So I wanted to be more calm, and I wanted to be, feeling more calm.
Exactly. You're objecting, and this isn't personal at all, Mandy. What I'm about to
Oh,
say is not personal at all, intended
it
to
is
be personal at all,
personal. It's me.
because it's true. It's true for everyone. I've been thinking about this. You're objecting to the instruction. It is an objection to the instruction. You want the instruction to be different, right? Because following the instruction means that meditation does not conform to what you either expected it to be or wanted it to be. And this is really important, and this is golden. This is something wonderful. The discovery that we are objecting to the instruction is a wonderful thing. If you're willing to really embrace, allow for, accept, and observe that objection. So in this case, and I just want to reiterate, it's nothing personal, Mandy, but in this case, there was an expectation that it would be calm and it would be tranquil, and that's what I want. And the instruction isn't, if I follow the guidance, it isn't necessarily apparently giving me that. And so there is an objection. And so what the clever meditator will do is they will look at that objection and they will include that objection, because this is quintessentially what the path is. It is all about meeting these objections to following the meditation guidance and insisting that it should be different. That's what creates the dilemma. That's what creates the doubt, is that hey, wait a minute, if I follow this guidance, it's not conforming with what I wanted meditation to be. Actually, if you follow the guidance, meditation will be exactly what you always wanted it to be. And so it's about meeting these objections, and you can't second guess it. You have to, those objections have to be fully consciously formed. It's just whether you're willing to recognize that they are actually objections to the guidance, because then you can look at it and say, okay, well, what's obstructing me from being wise? What's obstructing me from getting true insight? Oh, it's the expectation that I should be calm. It's the expectation that everything should be tranquil. It's the expectation that I should have this or that. And it is releasing yourself from those expectations. So the objection is actually a golden opportunity to realize what is actually obstructing you. Because deep down, everyone wants to be able to just rest in the moment, observing things and noting things. That's pure Zen. I mean, it really is. It's like it's just pure being, which is gloriously happy and peaceful and content. But we put these objections in I mean, another classic one is, it can't possibly be this simple. It is this simple. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's simple. But the objection is, it's supposed to be really difficult and challenging and something beyond me. Something really, really hard. And, oh, excuse me, I'm getting a bit too excited there. And so everyone has a choice at any given moment. They can either surrender to, well, the objection is going to be there anyway. There's going to be an objection to the guidance. And then you have a choice as to whether you surrender to the guidance or not. If you surrender to the guidance, it means then, in contradistinction, you can see that the objection is your true obstacle. And then you can understand. So if I ask any meditator, what is your objection? And perhaps we can, a few more of you can put your hands up and tell me what your objection to the instruction actually is. So in this case, the objection to the instruction is, it's not giving me what I wanted. And then it's a question of, can you see that it is what you want, which is actually the obstruction? Does this make any sense, Mandy?
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does make sense. The only thing is I'm resisting to accept that I wanted something to to experience another experience that I had. So I'm thinking, did I really want this not to happen? Because I didn't feel like I was resisting that I didn't want. It was only, it went on and so quick that I thought, maybe I need to make a choice. That was my wondering. Is that then also an objection? That's what I'm thinking.
No, can you say what do you think is another objection? Could you repeat that last part?
Yeah, good question. I think the objection you were mentioning is that I'm objecting the reality as it is, that it's so busy in my mind, and or that my that a lot
yeah.
of
Because what is the guidance? Because the guidance is simply to cultivate loving attention to reality.
Yeah.
So the objection is an objection to the way reality is, and the guidance is only like a.
So you're actually saying then, Paul, that even when it's like going so quickly and so fast with all the stimuli that is, or my intention is focusing on a lot of different things, it's yeah, I think that's the better approach. That I should just be whatever is there, even if it's going so quickly, and not linger a little bit with one thing to explore one thing a little bit more, or.
Well, once you've established that the objection is based on a comparison, what happens psychologically in meditation when we just relax and rest in the moment? So, for instance, I always say, well, just note the most obvious thing. I say, a lot. You can't note everything. There's no requirement to note everything. There's just, we want a representative sample. We want enough of a representative sample of experience, of the constituents of experience, of aggregates, to break through the misperception of things as being permanent, which, by the way, if you're seeing lots of things rapidly arising, passing away, you know, the mind flicking from one thing to another, to another, to another, you're kind of looking at transience right there. And so it's just learning. So I'd say for you, it's like emphasizing the resting part. Enjoy just being. So the way I do it is that I sit down, nice deep breath, and I just enjoy being. I'm not ambitious. I'm not trying to get anywhere. And then I find that the mind has run off into some thinking, at which point I note it. I haven't tried to note everything. Some things stood out. And so I noted it. And often it is that the mind immediately wants to go back to thinking about what it was thinking about before you
I know.
started the meditation. Fine. So that's what we know. And if there is that genuine just resting, not trying to find anything, not trying to force anything, not trying to make it calm, not trying to make it peaceful, but just resting, sitting in the chair. And then finding that the mind has alighted on the sound of the bird singing. And you can linger with the bird song for a little while and note how transient the tweets are. All tweets are transient. And then you gently bring the attention back front and center. And then you're resting and you're allowing the next thing to arrive. But it's not based on trying to get it right. It's not based on trying to get somewhere. It's just resting content in the moment. Now, if the mind then brings up something and says, well, this can't be right because look, then you're dealing with an objection.
Mm-hmm.
And it's whether somebody has the ability to then include that objection. So if it's just a practical matter of, well, how do I rest in the moment content to know what's arising? Because there's so many things. The simple answer is, well, you don't have to know everything. The mind will turn towards the most prevalent object, and you just attend to that. When it's finished with that, you can bring the attention back, say, to the breathing process or the perception of the body resting in the chair. And that's fine. You don't have to note everything that's taking place.
No, but it didn't feel like an active thing that I did. It did feel like there were just a lot of things my mind was paying attention to or was attending to.
Well, yeah, that's the nature of mind. I mean, as mindfulness develops, as clear comprehension grows, as concentration strengthens, the mind, you naturally become aware that the mind is taking like these micro moments of experience, tactile sensation there, sound there, thought there, perception there, reflection there, feeling there, and it is weaving together reality out of all these micro moments. That is exactly how it's all put together. Yeah, I just think that it's a case of just erring slightly more on the side of resting, of not pushing, of not seeking, not trying, not trying to push the envelope, but just rest, coming more within and just sitting and resting and enjoy just being.
So the observation that my mind also made, and so there was thinking like, oh, there's a lot going on today, and my mind is quite busy today.
Okay, all right.
Then there's
So we know.
thinking, and then this thinking you will say maybe stands out then at a certain point, or there will something will stand out that I'm not and it did in the end because
Relax,
I wasn't
relax,
doing this half an hour. Yeah,
relax,
yeah.
relax with it. Yeah, this is the time to just connect with the breath and just relax, just enjoy being. If the mind wants to scoot off, it's only at the point, the only it's just at that point where you become aware that the mind has scooted off. It's gone into planning. It's been in planning for the last 5 minutes. Lovely. Keep it lovely and relaxed. And it's being so inclusive and accepting and allowing for where the mind has gone, because that is the reality. We're not at war with reality. It's bad news to be at war with reality. So it's just accepting where the mind, you found the mind to have gone into planning. Great. Mindfulness has renewed. There's clear comprehension of what the reality had been for that 5 minutes. There's the acknowledgement of what it is, the clear comprehension, maybe even lingering with it. What kind of thinking was it? Okay, all right. And then in a very relaxed way, we can return the attention back front and center. And again, we can just relax and wait. And the mind naturally then will find another object that it becomes interested in. And so you haven't lost the meditation. You haven't come out of the meditation when you've been in planning mode. That's just the reality of what was taking place. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Does make sense.
Well, it really doesn't matter what I say at the end of the day. If somebody wants to practice, if somebody wants to practice, they can find out directly.
Yeah. No, thank you, Paul.
Appreciate it.
Clear explanation. Yeah.
Annie, hello. Nice to see you. How can I help you?
Help me now.
There you go.
Because I came off the mute. Mine is an extension of Mandy's. Not so. I can't find the word. It's okay. I see my problem very largely, most of the time, as emotional dysregulation. So that's obviously not. That's a sort of a psychoanalytic description, isn't it? And so
I don't know what that means.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm imagining. I think it means where your emotions are basically getting the better of you, and one's behaving or acting out. One's behaving not in a way you would want to behave because your emotions have got the better. I don't know. Anyway, not not sort of one might not be behaving reasonably within the context of. So what happens is, I don't object in principle, Paul. I really don't. And there's a book, and this is a man who is not Buddhist, Gabor Mate. He's obviously a doctor, and he's talking about trauma. But he says when the body says no. So I won't bother to talk anymore about that. But that is my experience. The body is saying no, and it's saying no because I'm so uptight, So I'll sit down, and I was just noting, squirming, wriggling, fidgeting, resisting, utterly restless. And it's because I'm saying I can't reduce myself anymore. This whole thing about annihilation of self. And I know we're not meant to annihilate self, but essentially that's what it's about, isn't it, really? I can't.
That's not the instruction. The instruction is just to rest, content to note whatever arises. Yeah. Annihilation wasn't mentioned at all.
No, so the third mark, the non-self. Can you just reiterate that? That would not be getting rid of self. It would be what?
You can only get rid of something you had in the first place.
Okay, well then, so you need to put it in terms of ego, wouldn't you? We don't want to have. I
don't know what the ego is.
Oh, okay, all right, okay. Not to worry.
Self-view. There's self. Well, no. I mean, I'm trying to help.
Well,
there's self-view. There's self-view. So we retain. I retain the ability to know that I am distinct from you, Annie. Otherwise, life just isn't possible.
Uniqueness, okay. But
no. It's such a confusion. People are so confused about this. Nothing is annihilated. Nothing is got rid of. We retain our. Yeah. Okay. I mean, you've asked a question. I need to answer it. Nothing is annihilated. Nothing is got rid of. All we're being asked to do, and this isn't so, it is an objection to the guidance. You want the guidance to be different. It is an objection, and again, it's not personal. It's just, this is what people do. We come up against all these objections, and we have to work through them. And in every case, it's realizing that the objection does not need to be solved. It just needs to be clearly acknowledged. And if it is that we sit down to meditate and there's squirming and there's irritation and frustration and whatever else, then that is the reality at this moment. That's what we note. It isn't trying to change anything. It's allowing reality to express itself through the devoted cultivation of loving attention to the components of reality. One starts to recognize the mark of non-self, that sound is not self. It doesn't have self-nature, that it's arisen due to conditions and is transient. Therefore, it cannot possibly be self. And again, someone starts to recognize that hearing itself is born of impersonal conditions. It arises, its nature is to pass away. Hearing itself cannot be self. It does not have self-nature. And so it's a very natural progression of insight that comes from this basic principle that we rest in the moment, content to cultivate loving attention to what's arising in our experience. And the confusion comes from this just too much bookwork, too much thinking about it, too much, confusion created by trying to work it all out intellectually, when all it actually requires is the devotion to setting up, resting, and cultivating loving attention to whatever arises in our experience. Yeah? So the question of not self is not currently relevant for where you are in your meditation. What you're doing is learning to allow for and acknowledge these states like restlessness and tension and frustration and irritation. We can leave all that highfalutin non-self stuff for later. It's cultivating loving attention. That's what it is. With some faith and confidence. Yeah, with a willingness to reflect wisely and to recognize these objections and to learn to include them in the practice. That's all it is.
But may I just comment on that?
Yeah, of course.
So you would say it is an illusion, the thought that this is going to make me ill. This is going to give me this. Like sitting here like this and feeling this level of
Annie, if you don't, Gabor is right. If you don't want to do it,
not wanting to do it. It's not wanting to do it. It's the feeling of I'm going to implode if I like this. And of course that's why I haven't.
Yeah. How does that happen? How does an implosion happen?
Because I don't want to bring these conditions in. This bipolar thing, but unfortunately.
No, but I have in my almost 25 years of teaching meditation, I've not once yet seen somebody implode.
I'm very pleased to hear it. Okay, what would that look like, I wonder? Yes. I hope it never happens. Or spontaneously combust. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, or somebody thinks their mind is going to cave in or something. I mean, what is that? It's not a thing.
All right. Okay. Yeah. No, I'll let someone else go on. You are right. It is a refusal, and it is a massive objection. Given what I want to do is feel better, not feel worse, and so I still haven't got through that barrier. I will sit down, and I'm going to make myself feel really awful if I do. But it's not necessarily the case. I just still haven't got through that barrier.
So always remember, it's not the thing; it's the resistance to the thing.
Yeah, but that takes practice, doesn't it? It's going to.
Oh yeah.
It's like an addiction, really. I think.
Oh yeah, Paul. How dare you say yeah? Of course, it takes practice. We are learning to cultivate loving attention to whatever arises.
And I see what I have as like an addiction, really. It's or I don't want to label that. I'd give it that name, but I think it is. It's. I don't know what you'd call it, but I'll
Okay.
stop. Yeah.
All right, Annie. Thanks for your contribution. I really appreciate it. I hope what I've said is helpful. Keith. Hi, Keith. How can I help you today?
Would you be able to talk about how to improve our mindful noting in our daily lives a bit more, please?
How to improve it?
Yes. It's almost
Oh,
like
you're a bit of a cheeky mood this evening. How to improve? What do you mean improve? What are you comparing it to?
Well, I guess in the seated practice, you feel it's easier to note things when you then try and transfer things to the daily life. I find in particular, because I'm so goal orientated,
There's your objection.
Yes. But it's I guess it's seeing that, being mindful. I'm goal orientated in that moment, and
we're cultivating loving attention. Can you cultivate loving attention when you brush your teeth?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Can you cultivate loving attention when you're doing the washing up?
Sure. Yeah.
Can you cultivate loving attention when you're walking in the countryside?
Yeah.
What is the goal of cultivating loving attention?
Well, that you're following the instruction, and so that.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
That you're following your instruction properly.
No,
and,
no. Sorry, but no. You're not cultivating loving attention to follow instruction properly. Surely we're cultivating loving attention to appreciate the wonder and the mystery of what we have. Surely.
Yeah. Okay.
And
yep.
in appreciating the wonder and the mystery of what we have, we're able to see how transient and fragile the components that go to make up an experience actually are. You get to see the wonder and the mystery of how it is that there can be a mental intention to do something, and then this physical process occurs. Whoa, where is it all coming from? Surely we're cultivating loving attention because we want to deepen our wisdom into the true nature of reality as it's unfolding right now. Surely we're not trying to get this right. Surely we're not trying to make sure that we're following the path properly. Are we? Is that why we're doing this? Isn't that a prison? It's like the tool is there to be used. the Buddha's teaching is just is the presentation of a description of reality and tools that we can then use to explore ourselves in order to discover for ourselves whether that description is correct. You see what I'm saying, Keith?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What is it that you want from the practice?
Well, I guess ultimately to see that things are perfect as they are.
So when are they going to be perfect as they are? When is that? When?
Well, right now.
Right now.
Yes.
Again, this is another objection to the instruction. And again, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong. It's like, it's our ability to see these objections and to recognize them and detach ourselves from them, allow for them, see them as they come up, in order to include them and be free of them. So what essentially what you want to see, you want to come to see that life is perfect as it is. Okay? So rest in the moment, and resting doesn't mean just sitting on a chair. You can rest anywhere. You can rest while you're walking. You can rest while you're doing the washing up. You can rest while you're brushing your teeth. It's what I mean by resting in this instance is free of ambition, free of becoming, free of trying to get somewhere with the practice. It's just resting with the process of brushing the teeth. It's just resting with it and exploring it and allowing it to unfold and being there with that experience as it's unfolding to see how remarkable it all is. Do you see what I mean? And so you are exploring reality, which you have heard is perfect as it is. Okay, well, let's investigate, let's find out. And through just paying exquisite attention to all those motions of brushing your teeth, you start to see that each little moment is transient. Each sort of like a taste of mint, the perception of mint wafts across the tongue and then instantly vanishes. It's remarkable how the mind is just like or not just the mind, how the aggregates are just weaving together in this way. But because we're hell-bent on getting it right, we miss it all. There's nothing to miss. It's all here. We don't have to become, we don't have to improve. We just have to remember to do it. You look unconvinced, Keith.
Yeah, no, I am convinced. Yeah.
You don't have to be convinced. No one has to be convinced by anything I say. It's right here for you if you want it. It's just choosing to cultivate loving attention rather than, well, not even rather than. It's remembering that you have the choice to cultivate loving attention at any given moment in your day. From the moment where you wake up to the moment you go to bed. And I'm not saying that you should be cultivating loving attention every moment of your day. Whenever you remember to cultivate loving attention, it does not require improvement. It's just that willingness, that memory, remembrance, and then go, well, here's the perfect opportunity for me. So it's not recriminating because you hadn't. It's just going, I hadn't been. This gives me the opportunity now to do it. And you just start with the big, blocky, most obvious things. If you're walking, you can just get in sync with the body and just observe those bodily motions and movements, the sounds of cars, the sounds of birds, shapes, colors, whatever seems appropriate. You just note it. But it's cultivating a loving attention. And if we're hell-bent on trying to get our practice to conform to what we think it should be, that's not loving. Loving is free. Yeah, it is the free, and without agenda, without bias, without trying to control, just letting reality be what it is, and to cultivate a loving attention towards it. That's it. That's a loving approach to reality. That's why it's really good to practice loving kindness meditation as well, because that is practicing love towards particular objects, isn't it? Seeing the value in, seeing the good qualities in other beings is cultivating loving attention. That's way more important than trying to see non-self in something. Way more important. All that will take care of itself if you first cultivate loving attention. So stop trying to improve, I would say, Keith. Rest. Yeah, rest, enjoy, unburdened by this need to get it right. You're only in one of two modes: mindful and clearly comprehending, or not. That's it. And for all of us, it's just a question of going, oh, I could practice right now. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, oh, I could just practice now. Of course, it's not going to last. It's mindfulness, it's transient. But, oh, right, oh, I could do it now. All right, do it now. And I think you'll find that there's a freedom to that, which, because you're not trying to conform to the teaching, you're just using the tools in order to encourage this exploration of your conscious experience, it becomes a lot more fun. Was there anything else, Keith? Is that good? Any follow-up there?
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. You're very helpful.
Really. Good. Jason, hello.
Hi, Paul. Hello. Oh, you've gone. Oh, there you go. It was just what was occurring to me is that I don't want to suffer, and I kind of see suffering as this thing that I've got to kind of sort out because it ruins my life. And I'm sort of realizing that's going to have an approach of, like, you want to get it a watertight way of looking at things. It's not going to allow you to suffer, and there's such a mistrust of life in that, and it doesn't work. But in that mode, the idea of loving attention, those sort of things seem weak, and well, what's that going to, even if I feel a bit better for a moment, it's not going to give me that sort of, you know, and
another objection.
Yeah. And that's why I've sort of realized, well, that I've not recognized the power of just the loving attention, because I want something more, you know. If I'm trying to solve a worldly problem, I have to have information, and, you know, and I have to have it all set out to solve the problem. But this is, you know, to approach life that way, with that sort of suspicion, it just keeps you always wanting to have a watertight answer, and and it doesn't ever. There's no faith, I guess, is what I'm saying, in that approach.
The Buddha said that suffering has to be understood. He didn't say that suffering has to be gotten rid of. It's craving that's gotten rid of. Craving that comes from ignoring, right? So thank goodness we have worldly concerns to irritate us, to frustrate us, to annoy us, to make us fearful, because that's the resistance block that we need for our spiritual journey. And so it's learning to, and I'm not the greatest at this myself, but to throw yourself into life and to meet with all these difficult situations in order to develop that knowledge of your internal responses and reactions to what's going on, which incidentally, those responses and reactions, you know, we have to take responsibility for them. You have to first take ownership of them in order to then to be able to work with them. But I find that those come from all kinds of places. Yes, it could be our karmic inheritance that we brought it into this life with us. Equally, there's early life conditioning. And also, I think that there is generational trauma as well that follows down the genetic chain. Any which way, these are the responses that come up in relation to whatever worldly circumstances we find ourselves in. And it is changing the dynamic to saying, this is fantastic. What a fantastic opportunity to shed light on, through mindfulness, shed light on these responses of anger, of frustration, of anxiety. Oh, I want to see this anxiety even more. I want to see this frustration even more, because the more I look at it, the more it's dissolved. The more I dissolve it through looking at it, what I mean by dissolving it is that there is the recognition that when I resist these things, they grow stronger. When I observe these things, they grow weaker. So the more I'm willing to look at them, the more detached from them I become, the smaller they appear. And, oh, it's just that again. Oh, okay. And the recognition comes that that anxiety, that frustration does not actually relate to that worldly situation. Yeah, it's not embedded in that worldly situation. And the more I dissolve it through allowing it and observing it and noting it, the more it dissolves. I still got that outward situation, but now that outward situation doesn't have that same anxiety attached to it. It's not embedded, it's not inherent in the situation. It's just my response, whether that response is from my past karma, whether it's, you know, just family trauma, or whether it's early life conditioning, whatever, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's not embedded in that worldly situation. So, and you can only get that if you're willing to allow that suffering to be there. And for that resistance to come up and to be seen and acknowledged. Again, I'm not saying it's easy. But what alternative do we have?
You're sort of turning away from it and just lumping it all together as one thing because you don't want to see the ingredients of it. So you just go, I just don't want that. Get that away, sort of thing. But by looking at it, you can see your reaction, the thing, as not being one, you know, one object.
More for, yes. We have to go through this process of deconstructing the reality. And so that's why regular daily seated meditation is so helpful. But we do need to be able to examine the components that go to make up an experience. Obviously, then, of course, we put it all back together again, and you have whatever the experience is that you're going through. But it is that willingness to open up to it, to allow it to be there, to deconstruct it into its aggregates, and to see that there's nothing inherent in it. There's, you know, it is empty. And then you put it back together again, and now it's, you know, I'm not saying that worldly situations are easy to get through. Oh, blimey. But if the more light you shed on your reactions and responses, And the more you're able to dissolve those negative responses through just allowing them and letting them be and seeing that they're transient and seeing that they're empty, the easier it is to navigate your way through the world.
Thank you.
So,
yeah, thank you.
Good luck, Jason. Sounds like you got a bit on your plate. Thank you. Mandy.
Thank you.
Hi.
Yes, Paul, my question comes from Annie's confusion that she was talking about, I guess, and also the same book that I'm reading from Gabor Mate. But how would you then say that this all that psychological theory that's there and that can be helpful, but how can you put that next to the practice? How can that be helpful, and when can that be helpful? Can you explain a little bit about that?
Why should I explain? I've never even read the book. I don't know what he's talking about. I mean,
No, it's not about him. It's
I
about
followed
any.
I followed the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path.
Yes.
It's got everything that I need in there. Why would I? I mean, I read widely during my training, but I always knew that I was following the Noble Eightfold Path, and that everything I needed in order to be free of suffering was contained within the Noble Eightfold. I didn't require anything else. So to ask me to comment on a book I haven't read and how that relates to the practice, I can't do that. Because I know from experience that to overcome suffering, one needs to cultivate loving attention to experience as it's unfolding, to have faith in that process to the point where it becomes confidence because you know it works, because you have sufficient experience. And you help that process by keeping precepts, by following the middle way, by being moderate, by trying to be harmless as best one can, developing service to others, through developing loving kindness, through practicing vipassana. I don't know what the intention is with all these other psychological ways. Are they trying to solve the problem of suffering? Do they succeed? But why would we want to complicate matters in that way? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Again, it's for me, it qualifies as another objection, which is perfectly reasonable. It's like I say, all these objections have to be brought into the light to be seen and understood. But it is entirely possible to realize the cessation of suffering without reading widely.
I guess
Right,
my
so
question could be the same as for religion and anything else that,
okay, so let me put it another way for you, Mandy. Like when the Buddha had realized Nibbana, he thought, who can I teach quickly? Who are the people that will get this most quickly? And he realized that the ascetics that had been with him during his time of asceticism would get it quickly if he went and told them. So he went to find them, was able to convince them that he was the real deal. They listened to him, and he delivered 2 discourses. The first discourse, Chakapavatana Sutta, I can't remember the Pali name for it, but it was essentially the discourse on the turning of the wheel of the Dhamma. It was a discourse on the 4 Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, right? His second discourse to them was the discourse on not self. They all became enlightened because they had taken what he was saying and they had looked at their experience and had seen it to be so. everything else is just unnecessary, confusing. Like lots of people have lots of ideas about all kinds of things, but really, you read the first two discourses, you've got all the information you need.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So it does qualify as another objection. Surely, but what about this? What about that? Okay, are you willing to practice mindfulness and becoming mindful of these kinds of deliberations and considerations, and as to whether they are actually relevant?
Yeah, or that they even could be distracting from the path and the
Absolutely.
practice if you dive into it. Because, yeah, okay, well.
Is Gabor Mate an enlightened sage?
I
Is he
have no
really?
idea. But it's not about Gabor Mate, it's also about religion.
No, I know. It's about a lot of
anything. It's
different
about
things.
anything.
Yeah.
So I guess it's another way of dealing with the worldly matters and trying to get a narrative of that to try to understand it from a different view. And yeah, maybe you need to choose. Maybe you need to choose, and that's the best way. Yeah.
Well, no, everyone is free to do whatever they want. But
no, of course, that's not what I meant.
The consideration was how do we match this up with the practice of the Buddha's teaching? And I was like, well, you don't.
Well,
you know,
yeah, you can,
it's like,
but it can also be confusing, I guess.
I mean, I guess it depends what somebody's priorities are.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. Yeah.
I mean, for me personally, my priority was the resolution of the problem of suffering through gaining insight into the true nature of things. And that I discovered from my experience that the way you do that is to rest in the moment, content to observe whatever arises. And the Buddha's teaching had more than enough guidance in how to deal with worldly matters. But any worldly matter is dealing with any worldly matter is greatly enhanced if there is mindfulness. So if there's mindfulness as the baseline, then you can allow all those experiences to unfold, and you can learn about what is the best, what is an effective, skillful way of dealing with it, what is a ineffective, unskillful way of dealing with it, and you learn as you go along.
Yeah.
But like, everyone is free to. Obviously, I don't have any say in anyone's life other than my own. And I'm only talking from my personal experience of having walked the path and realized that it contained everything I could possibly want or need, and therefore that put everything else in sharp relief. But hey, everyone, please, you choose what is most pressing and most important for you.
Yeah.
It's the best I can say, really, Mandy.
Thank you.
Okay, Natalie, hello.
Hi, Paul. So I've lost. Oh, you're there. I'm just responding to what you were saying about suffering, and Jason, and I was so interested to hear what you were saying, because I felt like very similarly that I'd had a lot of challenges around worldly situations, and my resistance was really grim, and of course that made things 100 times worse, and on it went. The stronger the resistance, which I obviously wasn't fully seeing that I was doing, just made the worldly situation so harsh and difficult, and it felt so difficult. And but what was quite characteristic of all of them was the repetition of them. That, you know, it seemed I was kept getting the same, well, not the same, different, but a very similar issue, and dealing with it very unskillfully. But as time went on, and, you know, much help from yourself and, you know, the Sangha, and keeping going as best as I could with the path and meditation and all the rest of it, began to see that there was no other way than to find a different way to responding to these situations. And although it's incredibly slow, I can see a massive difference. And the one thing that I found so difficult, and it's quite recent, was coming on a retreat. I just felt I almost couldn't do it, and I was finding a lot of resistance to that. But I thought I simply got to do it, and so I went forward and came on the retreat, which I'm so grateful I did, because it made a fantastic difference. It suddenly made me see, you know, I can move forward, and I can choose a different way of responding. And one of those kind of situations has sort of recurred. As I said, it's been quite repetitious, and I can see there's a different response to it, you know, whereas before I would have had a huge amount of resistance and tackled it unskillfully. I can now see there's a much calmer approach to it, and you know, for that I'm incredibly grateful.
There is only one approach that works, and that's why we have to sit in meditation, because in the daily round it's difficult to do this. The only way that will work is you sit down and you accept, allow, and make room for the inefficient response so that you can see it clearly. It's not about changing the response at all. It's about allowing, sitting with the discomfort of the unwanted, observing the strong desire for it to be different in whatever way, acknowledging it, allowing for it, observing it, being with it, in order to see that it is transient, that it is not me, mine, myself. It does not reflect the reality of the situation. It is just frustration, irritation, anxiety, whatever it is. It's just that. And if I keep on observing it, it dissolves. And each time, it's going back to exactly what I was saying before, you start actually to welcome its arising. You start to recognize what a wonderful opportunity it is to be with anxiety again in order to see it, to be with fear in order to see it. I mean, we're doing it for real, or we're not doing it. You know, we're not playing. We're actually willing to look at it. And if you're willing to look at it, if you're willing to go through the fire, and I fully advise people to do it under the guidance of somebody who knows what they're doing, knows what they're talking about, then there is inevitably wisdom into that will grow. Wisdom into frustration, wisdom into irritation, wisdom into anxiety, wisdom into pettiness, wisdom into doubt, wisdom in whatever it is, because you're willing to open up and allow for it, to look at it, irrespective of how uncomfortable it is. That's the way through. And then you find that you go into that worldly situation, and that irritation, that frustration, that anxiety does arise. But now, because you've been looking at it, you can carry on anyway, because you know that that anxiety does not relate to the truth of the situation that's unfolding. It's just a relative conditioned response, but it does not define the situation. It's one element, yes, but it does not define what is actually unfolding. And so the more you accommodate it and allow for it and see it for what it is, the less you react, the less you resist, the less you have to play that game at all. So you haven't changed the response. Sorry to contradict you, Natalie, but you haven't changed the response. You've accepted the tendency, and
Yes.
there's a willingness to look at it.
Yes.
Now, we could say, well, that's a change of response, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, given a certain pattern, the response will be this. And each time a similar pattern arises, that's the kind of response that comes out. All right. So the more you see that, the easier it gets to just accommodate that response without acting out. We don't want to act out of that anxiety. We want to simply acknowledge that the anxiety is there and acknowledge that it doesn't define the situation.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly it. Yep. Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you.
Not at all. Okay. Well, I think we're done for this evening, unless somebody had something very pressing. So I'd say, like, just to finish up, just experiment with just the total surrender to the guidance. This idea of resting with what is and being content to just note what's taking place, cultivating a loving attention towards it. What are these objections that arise in response? And the more clearly you can see those objections and you can start to accommodate them and dissolve them through properly naming them and being mindful of them, then you discover that that instruction is everything you ever wanted. It is the path to wisdom. It is the path to understanding life as it really is. It's just developing this capacity for mindful noting, cultivating loving attention. That is the way to go. So, all right. Okay, lovely to see you all. Thanks everyone who contributed. You're very brave. I wouldn't. No, I would. Very brave, and yeah, we'll get together in a couple of weeks and give it another go. Lovely to see you all.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Paul.
Paul, very
Thank you
much.
very much, Paul.
Nice to see everybody.